Good morning, everybody. The unit today is Therapeutic Nutrition. My name, as usual, is Olivia Koch. I welcome you to today's introductory class. We have covered the Therapy 1, 2, and 3, and Therapeutic Nutrition also is another unit where we are also going to learn dietary modification in different disease states. This unit has varied objectives, and I'm going to share them. As I told you, the objective of therapeutic nutrition is for us to be able to use diet as medicine, which goes beyond just management, but goes up to treatment of disease. And if we look at the objectives, by the end of this class, I would like every learner to be able to discuss the nature and scope of therapeutic nutrition. Be able to identify circumstances where diet may need modification, and then be able to plan and execute varied modified diets. Planning a diet involves choosing the foods which the client should eat, deciding or discussing with the client the different food exchanges within the food group that they can exchange for one another. And also being able to quantify the total calories given by the diet and also the total proteins that the diet will give. And when we're talking about dietary modification, we are also going ahead and wanting to plan diet for patients who may not actually take food orally. These patients could be on parenteral nutrition. And we are also talking about patients who are on oral diets but for some reason are not able to take adequate calories, and so we can supplement their diet with nutrition supplements that can boost the energy intake. We are also talking about choosing methods of cooking that will enable the food that we eat not to be bulky, but at the same time be able to achieve the calories required. And that's why now therapeutic diet is important for us to internalize the knowledge as nutritionists and be able to decide with ease. Actually, decision making for nutritionists would go a long way in helping patients regain their weight or be able to, provide to their body the required nutrients, regardless of the disease state. There was this one client one time, not really my client, but somebody I met. And this person was apparently diabetic. And he was telling me that I went to the hospital and I met the nutritionist. And the only option of vegetables that I was given was cabbages. And for me to take cabbages, I think I would rather just even, die out of the disease. Because I cannot take cabbages and I take ugali, a millet. And so therefore, what I learned from the statement of this person is that the nutritionist did not go a notch higher to explore the options within the food group that the client can choose from. And because basically we are telling a diabetic patient, eat a variety of vegetables. So the varieties of vegetables were not mentioned. The client was not even given an opportunity. It's like the counseling was from one end. when we are saying the counseling should be both end. The client was not allowed to say the type of vegetables that they can be able to access. And then they could be advised whether these options are okay or not okay, or the quantities that could be taken as exchanges. And so it is very important that at the end of this lesson, we as nutritionists are able to do, plan, and execute modified diets with ease and guide the patient through. I'm going to cover with you the course outline. It's basically something that we have done. We are just going to go through the introduction and definition of terms, and then go through the different diseases that we are going to, common diseases that we are going to meet clients with, and look at the therapeutic management. These include diseases of the GIT. Yeah? GIT we have from the mouth up to down. So we have, in the mouth, we have problems of appetite, nausea and vomiting, oral nutrition. And then in the GIT, we have diseases like GERD, inflammatory bowel syndrome. And then we have weight loss, people who have reduced weight, excessive weight loss. And then we have thrush, issues of the mouth. We have also patients who are on parenteral nutrition, like TPN and PPN. We have patients who are on NGT. We have patients who are actually feeding orally but are not able to adequately take the required nutrients. We have patients who cannot tolerate certain foods, and therefore we have to modify their foods and be able still to provide the required daily energy intake and nutrient intake. We are going to cover diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, renal conditions, cancer, etc. Now, I have just included two references for this unit. That is Fundamentals of Foods, Nutrition and Dietherapy by Mudambi and Rajagopal, and Nutrition by Paul Insel and Ross. You can get these books in any bookshop, but we also have ebooks of therapeutic nutrition, which you can just Google therapeutic nutrition ebooks, and then you'll have a variety of books that you can read online. Now, what is therapeutic nutrition? And we can just precisely describe therapeutic nutrition as the use of knowledge in nutrition, our knowledge in nutrition, to manage and treat different disease states. And why am I saying so? Sometimes we are not going to just use food, but we are also going to use supplements. We are also going to use formulas, processed formulas. For example, in management of PKU, phenylketonuria, you find that the patient is supposed to be restricted in protein intake. So they will take more of carbohydrate foods and avoid foods with phenylalanine. However, we can include tyrosine in the diet. And since tyrosine is not readily found in most protein foods, we may not exclude phenylalanine, but there are processed foods where phenylalanine is excluded but tyrosine is included. Since these children will not react to tyrosine, then we adopt these supplements into the daily diets of these children. So in as much as they will exclude protein in their diet, but they will get protein supplements with which phenylalanine has been removed and tyrosine has been incorporated. And so therefore, as nutritionists, we should be able to know how much of these supplements do we give. And also for TPN and PPN, how much of them should we give? How much amino acids per day? Yeah? So basically, it's therapeutic nutrition goes a notch higher, and we say that it's a combined use of whole food supplements, enteral and parenteral fields to manage and treat different health conditions. And we have been talking about modifying, modified diets. A modified diet is any diet altered to include or exclude certain components. You may say we have high calorie diet, low calorie diet, low fat diet, high energy diet, low protein diet, high protein diet, you know, increased vitamins, increased vitamin C, increased vitamin D. And so we are going to make a decision whether to increase the quantity of food, reduce the quantity of food, increase the supplement, or remove oral food totally, and put enteral feeds, put parenteral feeds, yeah. So modified diets can also be called therapeutic diets. Remember, in modified diets or in therapeutic diets, we have to work with precision, because our aim is to use diet to treat different conditions. And so if we are going to treat different conditions, then we have to be precise in quantifying our diets. And that's why we talk about diet regimen. A regimen is basically a decision of types of food and amounts to be included per day. And in a regimen, there has to be a provision for an exchange within a food group. For example, in carbohydrates, bread can exchange for ugali, ugali can exchange for rice, rice can exchange for yams, yams can exchange for, all those foods which are in carbohydrate section. And therefore, as we are doing the regimen, we must also tell the patient that these are the foods within the group. If today you don't feel like bread, you can take yams. Yeah? Like that patient in the case of cabbage. The patient should have been told all these vegetables fall under the vegetable A or vegetable B group. So if you choose any, then this is the amount you should take. This patient would have found implementing the regime easy. Another objective of regime is to make sure that a patient only takes amount of calories or proteins or vitamins or any nutrient that is required by the body. For example, the renal patients. One, we need to give them, high biological value proteins. And then because their kidneys don't work properly, we don't need to overburden the kidneys with a lot of protein. So we must precisely just give what they are going to use. And so today we were just having an introductory class. Next week we want to start by covering, dietary modification in diabetic patients. And so I want to give you this assignment: read and write notes on diabetes. So in our next class, it will be easy for you to understand the concepts that we'll be talking about. And until next time, I want to thank you for your time for this class.